Good afternoon, everyone. Before we start the meeting proper, can I just ask panel members to confirm that they're happy for Councillor Paxton Hood-Williams to continue as convener of the panel for the new municipal year? If you could raise your hands, please. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that anyway, and my thanks to Liz for starting it off. First thing I'm going to do is welcome everybody, of course, to the meeting. Members and officers, really pleased to see you. And we'll hopefully, I don't think we've had any apologies, so hopefully we'll be a full membership of panel today, so that's good. Just for the benefit of people who are not here at the moment, perhaps we could go around the table and you introduce yourselves so everybody then will know who's here. So let's go on, let's start with stand over there and we'll work our way around that way.
Good afternoon.
Sorry.
Sandra Joy. I'm Uplands Party Councillor. Yeah, sorry.
Sue Jones representing Gowerton.
Councillor Wendy Lewis, Wenalaith Ward.
Paxton Hood-Williams, now convener again. I always forget that.
Julie Davies, Head of Child and Family.
Louise Gibbard, Cabinet Member for Care Services.
Chris Griffiths, Principal Officer for Child and Family Services.
I want to change this agenda around just a little bit because item 7, the role of the panel and review of the year 23-24, I think would be best left to the end of the meeting so that officers don't have to sit round twiddling their fingers bored to death while we discuss that. So if you may, with your permission, I will change the agenda along those lines and we'll do item 7 before item 9. Okay. I think 9 was the last one, before 10, sorry. Okay, that moves us on to apologies for absence.
And we received apologies from Councillor Victoria Holland, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And anybody got any disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests? I'm not seeing any hands here, I must admit, so that's fine. Item 4 is a normal prohibition of whip votes and declaration of party whips. Item 5, minutes of the previous meeting together with the letters that have passed between us in that time. You've all had a good chance to have a look at them, read them. If anybody's got any comments that they want to make in terms of accuracy, fine, please do so now. If not, then I'd take them as read. And I can't see again anybody indicating again, so we will move on to item 6, which is
Paxton. Sorry to interrupt. I don't know about Mark and others joining online, but we can't see anything in the Gloucester room. There's nothing showing. I don't know, Mark, if it's the same for you.
Okay.
No, I've got a clear view, thanks, Mike.
Pardon?
Okay, it's probably.
What did you say there?
You got a clear view.
No, it's just me then. Apologies then.
Well, let's check the system now and see. Pardon? It's not this end, Mike. Apparently it's your end.
Okay, apologies then.
Well, it'll be a plus for you if you haven't got to look at my face anyway, so we'll carry on.
It was doing that to me on Teams the other day. If I think you might have to come out and back in again, that
Okay,
might help, or
thanks.
shut down Teams or something. That helped with me.
Yeah,
Like the other way.
thanks, Louise. I'll try that. Thank you. I can recognise the voices.
That was item 5 that we talked about. Item 6, public question time. We don't have any questions, which moves us on very quickly to item 8, because we're bypassing 7, care inspected Wales. I don't know. Are you going to introduce this, Louise, and then?
Yeah, just make a couple of comments and then I'll hand over to Chris. Yeah, we've had 2 very positive inspection reports here with at Tynant and Hale Tier D, both providing obviously really good level of care. There's no concerns there at all. You know, well furnished, the staff know their duties. They highlighted a couple of areas of improvement as we've discussed. You know, at the panel, we know staffing and recruitment is an ongoing challenge across child and family services, and that's as you can see from the report, as the CIW have said, that's impacted on the consistency of the staffing at the homes. But I think, as Chris will hopefully be able to report on, I think we've got much more stability in that area now. We're up to recruitment, aren't we, on some of the posts, and the other areas for improvement are being addressed by action plans. So yeah, I'll hand over to Chris and put on record my thanks to Chris and the teams for their the good care they're providing.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Louise. Okay, yeah, so this is going to be a brief overview again, as Louisa said, about the inspections. I've put a bit of context in and around CIW's the inspection framework. It is a very brief overview, and the extracts are taken directly from this. So I'm not going to talk through it word for word. I'll just pick up on some of the salient points. So obviously, Care Inspector at Wales CIW, they're the independent regulator of social care and childcare, and then they register, inspect and take action to improve the quality and safety services for the well-being of people in Wales. So this is coming under the RISCA guidelines and the RISCA Act, which is the Regulation and Inspection for Social Care Act. And that basically requires the Act for children's homes to be inspected every 12 months. You would have been obviously aware sometimes when we've met, there's been sort of priority notices, so those that tend to be when actions haven't been followed through in specific time scales. And then what happens then, the follow on for that is that instead of it being over a 12-month, they do a focused inspection within 6 months to make sure that the action plans and everything are forwarded through in a shorter time frame, if you like. So we've currently got 2 homes registered with CIW, Tynant and Hale Tier D, and then they went in inspection during December and in January. The key points to consider, obviously we've mentioned the priority notices, and that's when there's no compliance, when there are poor outcomes which need immediate attention within 6 months. But the areas for improvement, they tend to be the action plans that you have for over the 12 months, so they're less severe than if you have a priority notice. Again, I won't go through it all, but the main areas that they concentrate on when they come through inspection is well-being, care and support, the environment and the leadership and management of the homes. We're moving on to number 2. So we start with Tynant CIW summary. So the first thing that they picked on is the model of care. Obviously, we're changing quite a lot, where Tynant has probably been a cover-all. In Swansea, identity was never really specific because we did only have 1 registered home. As we're taking more within our portfolio, the idea is that we're being a lot more specific around our statements of purpose. So we're in a bit of a transition model at the minute, looking at it more trauma-informed. We're hoping that it's going to be the first sort of trauma-informed home within Swansea, looking at all the proper models, etc. So at the minute, we're in a bit of a transition, and CIW picked that up because a lot of the policies maybe doesn't necessarily reflect the type of work that we're trying to do, because they tend to be old. It's in a little bit of a rock and a hard place when they come in to review these, because if we said that we are doing these things in a trauma-informed way, then we'd be held accountable for it. But because we're going through that transition with the training and everything, so it's a kind of it sticks to one half a dozen of the the other in this kind of area, but by the next time that they come within the 12-month, the action plans are all in place for all the staff to be trained, for the therapeutic model to be in place. And obviously we've got huge input from our internal therapy services, which are providing consultation to staff, support for the young people, and also then guiding the management and even sort of the strategic policy in the way that we run the home.
Can I interrupt just for a second to ask you what exactly you mean by trauma informed?
So trauma informed is when young people are, well, the young people that come through to the system, I suppose, for want of a better word, have usually got adverse childhood experiences. So they've experienced a lot of trauma, and that could be through a number of, it could be environment, it could be through their families, it could be, you know, additional lots of different sort of reasons. So what the approaches that we're looking to do around sort of KCA training and a lot of the sort of models of care that we're trying to provide is not necessarily behavioural where we've been in the past. So a lot of it would be consequential. What trauma informed does, it does a lot of things like timelines, so you can understand the journey for the young person. You can understand where the areas of the adverse childhood experiences have impacted on their development, and that could be brain development, it could be physical development, it could be a range of different areas. So it's about having a full understanding and a full timeline of it, understanding exactly what traumas these young people have been through, and then adapting the approaches that we take to suit the individual needs of the young people. Is that okay? Okay, so we've got it says some children's wellbeing outcomes are not maximised and their care and support needs improvement. The responsible individual, so that's the RI, has effective oversight of the service through quality assurance processes. However, further improvements are required in reviewing children's needs and the provision of the service. Additional areas for improvement have been identified in respect of care staff consistency and delivery of consistent care and support approaches. This, again, we kind of challenged quite a lot of the reporting that came back, because when they did come, a lot of the review that took place was around one young person that was receiving care. That young person wasn't in a stable position. He was fairly new into the home. And what we felt is that a lot of the information that was missed was, like, for example, we had 5 other young people that we'd previously been supporting through. So we did put some challenge back to CIW, because they did tend to look at that one young person rather than the previous. And they did actually amend the report then, as where it was all, they changed it to some, just to reflect that there is pieces of work going on. So again, going on to the more of the environment, the home is clean, organised and generally well decorated with sufficient resources to meet the needs of children in the home. The bedrooms are well decorated, suitable furnishing, deco for personalisation, and then safety checks and audits are completed regularly, and there are effective systems in place to ensure the home is a safe place. And then care staff know their safeguarding duties and safeguarding practices, and they're in line with their policy and national guidance, which is obviously the Wales safeguarding procedures. What I'll do, I'll look for the areas of improvement on the latter stages of this document. Do you have your hand up? Oh, sorry, I thought. Okay, so HLTD, the summary report. Summary of HLTD provides care and support to children between the ages of 10 and 18. Children are making positive progress towards achieving personal outcomes. They're encouraged to have a say about the care they receive and that they listen to. Comfortable and happy in their home. Recruitment of permanent care staff has been challenging, and further improvements are required in care staff consistency. The home is welcoming, clean, well maintained with high quality deco and furniture which meets the children's needs. Health and safety checks of the premises are completed. Care staff feel supported, they've access to a range of good quality training, they receive supervision and speak positively about the overall service. The responsible individual, again the RI, has a strong oversight of the service through their quality assurance processes. So in section number 3, these are the areas for improvement that were identified. So I'll start with TNANT. Children have received care and support from a high number of care staff, and this does not promote consistency within their care and support. The service's approach to standards of care and support does not consistently support children to progress and achieve personal outcomes. The service provider has not updated the statement of purpose to reflect the changes to the service, and the statement of purpose and behaviour policies do not reflect the current model of care and support being provided to the children. Provider assessments have not been reviewed in accordance to regulation. I didn't know whether you wanted to have a discussion on TNANT specifically around that before I move on.
I think we'd be interested to know how you're going to address those, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the first one we're addressing currently is about the consistency. So we've had really aggressive recruitment drive as it stands at the minute that has been ongoing for the last couple of months. As to date, we've managed to get a manager, 2 assistant managers and another 9 care workers on board, and that's as of today. So that's going to make TNANT, the staffing structures around TNANT and TLTD a lot more robust, but also give us an option when we are looking to open new as well, giving an option for staff to be trained, inducted properly before they go into the next regulated setting. It is a challenge. We went out for actual, I think it was 15 positions. What we don't want to be doing is just, we've got quite a high threshold where it's looking at training experiences, etc. Because in the past we may have failed by getting people in that aren't to the level of quality and expectations that we are now aiming for. So I think, you know, having 9 out of the 16, we've got good quality 9. And again, it's just going to be a rolling recruitment drive as we move forward. You could appreciate sometimes the needs of the children and young people. They need the best of the best, and sometimes just getting bums on seats is just not the option that we want for the children in Swansea. So we were a little bit disappointed we couldn't get the full 15. However, you know, taking 9 at this stage is definitely something that we found positive. And again, having robust induction, getting them through the elements of training that we need, you know, will definitely support the next transition into the new home as well. For the services approach to standards of care around the personal outcomes, this was really interesting when we unpicked it with CIW. Because a lot of the young people, especially within the TNAT structure now, where they're working with the ITS, the internal therapy services, and it's very small steps. So you're not seeing these young people after 2, 3, 4 months hitting big targets like 100% attendance or hitting all of their well-being goals, which they set straight from the start. You know, these could take months, years to actually, you know, really sort of consolidate to make sure that they're hitting their targets. And some may never ever reach, I hate to use the word potential, but the expectations of what society actually you know, impose on them. And I think one of the discussions that we were having around quality standards with health, around quality standards within education, is that just that understanding of it is baby steps with some of these children and young people. So that for us, it's kind of refocused us to look at more of what we call in the soft skill analysis. So sometimes even eye contact is a huge thing for these children and young people, but that doesn't necessarily sort of equate in a matrix of big outcomes for it. So, you know, it's obviously we want the big outcomes. We want 100% attendance. We want them to attend every health appointment and everything like that. But these young people, as we said, they've come through some very adverse situations. So we're trying to sort of twin track where we're tracking soft skill as well as then the big sort of tangible outcomes that go along with it. The service provide. Oh, sorry.
Stop you there for a second.
Yeah, sure.
Mark has put his hand up to ask a question. Would you like to come in at this point, Mark, please?
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered if there's any kind of timeline to implement these recommendations from CIW.
If there's any what, sorry?
Timelines.
Timelines. Yeah, well, it's like I said, because they come in for an area for improvement, that'll be over the next 12 months. So, as I said, if it was a priority notice in any of these areas, then the action plan would be over 6. We're not obviously waiting 12 months to get these actions in place. As soon as we had the report, immediately we put action plans in place, and that's what we work through every week within our development sessions to ensure that we are making progress. Some things are within our control, and the things are like recruitment, etc. We can go a certain. The control element of it is that we can get our recruitment set up properly, actually getting the capacity in. As I've stated, we went up for 15 and we could only get 9 in. That is slightly out of our control because we are looking for the quality side of it, but we are doing everything that we can do as far as that's concerned.
Martin, so we should have some more good news in come September, the next meeting.
Yes, yep.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry, Chris. Oh, sorry, Sue.
Thank you, Chair. Really on recruitment, do you contact the local colleges to find out if they are providing the training that you require? Is that an option for you?
I think with the colleges that would tend to be more of a longer term. What we've got to be very careful of, because we got to 18. We've got to make sure that we've got sufficient gap between when RCCO starts. So we've got a minimum of 4 to 5 years before people can come and work with 18-year-olds.
Right.
So we've got to be very careful. But as far as sort of social care training, I know that other POs have got it within their portfolio to engage with the universities to see what they are doing as far as sort of social care degrees and anything that's related to sort of childcare. Locally, we work with the workforce action. I've forgotten what they're called. Workforce. Yeah, adult services. employability. So we do sort of open sessions within the quadrant where we were doing it. So it's like a roadshow for recruitment. So we've got lots of areas that we're trying to drive. It goes out across all social media. Probably more platforms that I could probably name at the minute. I'm a little bit of a dinosaur with those type of things, but everything that we're doing to try and spread the net as wide as we can, we are doing. It's a bit of a national issue at the minute as far as recruiting into social care roles, specifically around residential care officers. I meet with my regional partners or my regional, the RIs, and it's an issue right across Wales as it stands at the moment. Just trying to get the quality in. So that's where we are at the moment.
Thank you, Chris.
That's okay. So the statement of purpose in this one, yes, we know that, and it's very similar to what I've seen in and around the policies as well, as where if we said we're therapeutic and then we're not offering that, they would say, well, your statement of purpose says it's therapeutic and you're not offering. So at the minute, it is a very much of a transition, and it is quite, something that we're going to be working towards over the next year. And again, the provider assessments, which have not been reviewed in accordance to regulation, that does kind of dovetail into what we're offering. However, that is something that every time we change a plan for the young person, so whether it's a safety plan, whether it's a risk assessment, whether it's a care and support plan, we then need to dovetail that into to make sure that TNANT is still the provision for the young people. So that was learning for us this time round. It was all the others we were expecting. That was something that came slightly out of the blue, but we're aware of it now, and we've made the changes. Okay, on TNANT. Okay, so HEAL Tier D, one area for improvement and no priority notices. Children receive care and support from a high number of care staff, which does not promote consistency in their care and support. So very similar, just because we haven't got the core staff in, there's been sort of, we've had to manage with agency. And again, there has been quite a high number of, high usage of that as well. So, but I think, all in all, there are 80 plus areas where they can scrutinize us. So it was positive, even though we know that there's lots of areas for improvement and things that we really need to get our heads around. The action plans are in place. We've made really good progress around this. Again, we've got that rolling drive now that's going up with the recruitment side of it. So we're hoping the next round will be, even if we're getting 2s and 3s in, it is making the staffing teams robust, which is positive. And again, I'm doing the under the requirements within the responsible individual. I've got to go into report and do what is basically a mini inspection every quarter. So every 3 months I go in and do basically what the CIW do. I try to get in there a little bit more regularly when I can. Some that are informal visits as well, just so I can see the children and some of the staff to get feedback. And I can already see the improvements that are being made on both homes as well, with that. So that's really positive. So it does say the last one was in March for HEAL Tier D, but it was actually the 3rd of May, and TNANT was the 1st of May. So happy with the progress as it stands at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
That's okay.
That's interesting, because obviously the journey with TNANT is something I've been watching closely now for about 18 months, 2 years, I would think. Has any other members got any questions that they would like to put into the mix at this stage? I'm looking for hands. Sue, you want to come back?
HEAL Tier D is where?
That's in Morriston.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Was that Blackland?
It does. I think it's a Black Street. No, Forder's Street, isn't it? So yeah, Black something. It's not. Yeah.
Not the most optimistic of names, but that's another matter.
It's the name of the street, unfortunately. So we were hoping that the young person that was residing there would take part in naming the home. She wasn't really interested in and didn't really care. So it was my home. So I thought, okay, that's fine, and that's the best response we could have asked for. So.
Basically, I suppose we'll come back to the same question all the time as far as residential care is at the moment. And in terms of whether you're satisfied you've got sufficient places available in Swansea now under the new system that is being asked for by Welsh Government.
Yeah.
I mean, the short answer, Chair, is no. So we continue to, in terms of residential children's places, then there aren't enough places at the moment in Swansea or in neighbouring. So we're still using residential children's homes that are outside of Swansea, which isn't ideal. And we're still sometimes having to use a residential children's home because there aren't any fostering placements for them either. But I'm confident that with the progress we're making with Foster Wales and the number of additional foster carers that we have, that we'll be in a position shortly, where we won't be having to default to residential for children that need a fostering placement, because we have had a lot of success in improving inquiries. Just a residential where children need residential, because some children will still need a residential home, albeit hopefully for a short period of time. We do still face the challenge of either not being able to find a home at all in Swansea and therefore having to look to England, or being charged very, very high weekly rates by these private companies, because they potentially see the opportunity to make additional profit pending the introduction of the new legislation through the draft social care bill. So that is an ongoing conundrum and dilemma that we have. I think all local authorities in Wales face exactly the same challenges that we face. So we do still have in mind to continue to have additional in-house provision. We're still actively seeking suitable properties that we can acquire or lease that will give us some additional in-house capacity. But I think we'll never be able to provide the whole breadth of specialist support that every child would need. So I think it's good to have a mixed economy. The challenge for the local authority will be, can we afford that? Because of the weekly rates that continue to be increased by the providers at this present moment in time. But we remain hopeful that if the 20 local authorities can work together to challenge that market, then we'll end up in a better position than we feel we're in at the moment.
Yes. It was Kamal and I saw somewhere the other day were concerned that they were finding problems getting a hold of houses basically, where they could house those residents. So it is difficult. And I didn't realise, perhaps I should have, does it also apply to independent fostering associations as well?
It does indeed. So the eliminate profit, the requirements in the draft social care bill apply to independent fostering agencies, to residential children's homes, but also secure homes. So in England, they won't have one secure home in Wales that's run by a local authority. But in England, a lot of them are run by private providers. So that will also apply to secure children's homes. But it doesn't apply to residential homes for 18 plus or for supported accommodation where children just need support rather than care and support. So normally 16, 17-year-olds.
Sorry, but we're struggling with fostering as well.
In terms of independent, so fostering placements in our own local authority fostering, yes, we are, but we have a recruitment drive on for particular cohorts of children, so parents and children, for example. We have larger sibling groups that needs, even if it's just short-term accommodation, where they'd be better with a foster carer. But we're doing some targeted recruitment to fill those gaps at the minute for teenagers and for parents and child. So we do inevitably tend to use IFAs, independent fostering agencies, for parent and child placements at the minute where we need them.
I was going to add, when we are trying to move foster carers from IFAs over to our in-house provision as well, because obviously it's not for profit and we think it's better.
One final opportunity for members if they want to come in on any of these points in that respect, then please. That moves us on to item 9, which is the delivery of corporate priorities. Louise, are you going to deal?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this is quite a detailed report, which is outlining the actions that we've been taking in order to work towards the corporate priorities and our policy commitments that were sort of turned into council policy in 2022. I don't think there's anything new here. I think this is just a summary of what we've been bringing to you throughout the year. So hopefully everyone's quite familiar with the stuff in this plan. Just to pick out a few points, obviously with regards to safeguarding, our prevention and early help model is working really well. The CMET team, I know we've talked about a lot in this panel, has been identified as excellent practice and is really having a big impact on young people in Swansea. There has been a review of ALN provision, and work is going to come out of that to ensure that all of those services are right going forwards. Another project that's been highlighted as excellent practice is our Born into Care project. Recently won the Social Care Accolades Award, and I'm looking forward to welcoming the team to next full council to receive some their rightful applause from councillors, and to recognise their achievements there. And also, as saying to Julie before the meeting, our Minister for Social Care, Dawn Bowden MS, came in last week to speak to some of the staff from that project and Jigsaw and our Reflect and all of that work, and she was really, I think, impressed with the model that we're doing there. A lot of work is going on, as we've just been talking about, to recruit more foster carers, and clearly to make sure that they are well supported as well. Similarly, it mentions a bit later on that we're looking at SGO, special guardians or special guardianship orders as well, to ensure that that's working appropriately for everybody. Accommodation, as we've just discussed, continues to be a challenge especially for young people with complex needs, but there is regional work going on to address this, and the expansion of provision for 16+ care leavers. But as we've just said, now we've just talked about TNANT and Hale Tier D placement is a real challenge. I think it's mentions the work at Rossilli. I think that's finished now, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
it's just the final finishing touches. Yeah.
So fantastic. There's that's become an emergency placement, which is to a really good standard. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead here because I would have thought that linked in better with that. But in terms of workforce, again, we've just discussed how recruitment has been a challenge, but really working really hard, as Chris was saying, to tap into all the different sources of people through links with the employability service and so on. And the academy is really helping nurture and bring on our staff who are newly qualified, and then through into our teams. The report talks about the systems reviews that have been taking place across different areas, and that will really sort of digs down into making sure that all the systems and our processes are really delivering in the right way for our children and young people, our families, and of course for professionals. So I think that's, as I say, a really quick whiz through, but it's a detailed report, so I'm happy to take questions, and Julie might need to jump in and help me.
I'm looking for hands up again. I'm not seeing any, so obviously people are relatively happy, I guess. Yeah. Well, I think I might ask a couple. Particularly to start off with prevention and early intervention. I'm going to come back to a hobby horse of mine, because I think in terms of prevention and early intervention, the people who are best placed initially to identify those potential families where there could be potential problems are the health visitors. And how much contact do you get from them these days? How positive are they in providing that information to you, so that you can start working early with the teams, the families?
Yeah, I mean, the early help and stuff is more in Councillor Gwynne's portfolio, but so I'll let Julie come in on this. But I know in some of the teams, so particularly, as I said, we're talking about Jigsaw and Born into Care and things like that. It fully integrated really in those teams, aren't they? But I'll let Julie.
Yeah, in terms of health visitors per se, then they use our early help hubs to maybe deliver clinics or to work in partnership with the staff in those localities. So I think they have really good working relationships. They'll reach into us and we'll reach out to them. They'll refer in families, and also in the early years settings that we have, the Flying Start, we're really well connected into the health visitors operate from there, and we've got our own children's centres, 2 of them that are connected to our early help model, and we also they have health visitors that use those facilities as well. So I think we've got quite a strong working relationship with the health visiting service at the early help through our early help hub model.
That's positive, isn't it? Yeah, because it's certainly something that I've been saying for a long time, and I'm sure members will remember it being said here as well. That they do see the situation first of all before anybody else, and they got the opportunity to warn you of what's happening. the single point of entry seems to be working well as far as you're concerned.
Yes, I believe so. I think it's I think, as it says in the report, it's all about sort of slowing it down, really, isn't it? So when a case comes into single point of entry, they can then look at that and make sure that's, you know, rather than escalating it perhaps to a social work team straight away, seeing is there some earlier help that can be done with that family, that child or that young person. But yeah, I've not got the right bit in front of me now. Is that a fair reflection, Julie?
Yeah, so we as Councillor Gibbard said, we try really hard to find ways of working with families through different in-house services that we have available, either in the front door or through our family support services, to try and find a way to help families to learn and understand each other better, to prevent the need for statutory intervention or for escalation. So we found that by getting our own in-house teams to be sitting together more regularly, or be working together, or come together through having regular consultations and conversations, that's improved the type of support and intervention that the families need, rather than us assuming what they need. People are talking better together and having those conversations, so it's certainly delivering better outcomes.
Well, as I look around, I see a lot of nodding heads, so that's got to be good, I guess. Still not seeing any hands going up here, so obviously people are very satisfied, I guess. Pardon? Oh, sorry. Mike, did you want to come in?
Yeah, if I may, just very quickly. It's heartening to hear the good news, and just hearing on the media today about Neath Talbot having a success. Is there anything we can learn from them? I was going to suggest that maybe we could look in our work programme at something like that, but I don't know if Louise or Julie want to comment on that at the moment.
I haven't seen the news. I don't know what Neath Talbot have been praised for. Sorry.
Basically, they came in that they've cut their looked after children by about 50%. Now, they didn't say how long that happened, but if we look at our figures here in Swansea over the last 3 or 4 years, we must have cut it by about 50% ourselves, because that was the edict that came out from Welsh Government, wasn't it? If I remember correctly. So I don't know if you want to comment on that, Julie.
I think that there's probably mutual learning from both local authorities, and certainly we have regular conversations with colleagues in Neath Talbot around their current practice and how they operate. So for example, our approach to born into care is a little bit different from their approach. So we're sharing learning in that regard. They've been leading on the parental advocacy network and how that helps families, and particularly parents, in relation to if their children are on the register. So we had a joint event a couple of weeks ago. So that we certainly use every opportunity we can to learn from each other. Obviously, the context in Neath Talbot is different. Their population is a lot smaller. So we just have to be cautious about how far that learning can go, given that the context and the environment is very different in Swansea compared to Neath Talbot. So, for example, our approach to contextual missing exploited trafficked is a little bit different to Neath Talbot, because they perhaps don't have the same issues that we face around exploitation and county lines, for example. So we do take opportunities to learn together, and I have suggested that maybe we do more on-site interaction rather than telephone conversations, so that you can always learn better when you're actually face-to-face and can go and talk to the teams direct. So, yeah.
I think from my point of view, when I saw that report, Mike, the question I would be asking about that is 50% over what period of time? Because if it's done too quickly, then I think it can cause problems. It did take quite a considerable time here to work it down, but I think our sensible approach at that time, and certainly over the years as we've looked at that, and we've seen those figures, and they have virtually stabilised now about the 200-250 mark, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think it's a right comment, and Julie's pleased with Julie's response. You know, we do try and work closely with Neath Talbot. We're part of the same regional partnership board. The children's agenda is part of the agenda for the regional partnership board. So, by definition, there should be collaboration and cooperation and mutual learning with one of our closest partners. We actually went on similar journeys. You know, you'll remember well, Chair, that period of time when we were in intervention in children's services, and it was a long, hard slog, wasn't it, around getting our arrangements as fit for purpose as they can be for us to be the best that we can be for our children and families, population. Well, Neath Talbot went on a similar journey. They were in intervention. They remodeled their approach around that, and they have had. I mean, I spoke with the director earlier, and I haven't watched the programme either, but it's good and great for our region. It's good and great for Neath Talbot that they had. Quite an unusual thing, isn't it, to allow television cameras in to share your work. We all perhaps a bit anxious about that, but I think it's great success. But we have been on similar journeys and prompted by similar context. Both of us, in the past decade have found ourselves in intervention in children's services, and it certainly does, it certainly refocuses the mind on what's important. Hasn't become any less important for this council. It's certainly not become any less important for Neath Talbot Council. But I think we are good partners and are well placed as a region, that we've got both local authorities that have had that experience and know to concentrate on what matters for our children's populations.
Thanks, David. Mike, do you want to come back?
Sorry, I was just trying to unmute. Yeah, recognise the points that Julie's made, and we're delighted to hear as well from Dave and Julie about the partnership working. And I think there's always things that we can learn from one another. We need to be in that position, and pleased to hear that the partnership working is going well.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Anybody else got any points they want to raise? I had noted here the use of independent fostering, but in the sense that, as I understand it now, you're not in a situation to do that to that extent in the IFA in particular, and we've already discussed that. Other than that, obviously, I don't think there was anything in the report that I was picking up that I thought it needed looking at in any more depth. One more time, I'm going to give members the opportunity to say, have you got any questions for Julie and David in particular, and also Louise? Yeah. In that case, I will say thank you very much. Much appreciated. If you want to stay for the next two sections, you're very welcome. But I deliberately moved one of them so you didn't have to sit through it, so I'd be surprised. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. I'm sure you've had the opportunity to read through in detail what is item 7 on the agenda, the role of Child and Family Services Scrutiny Performance Panel and review of the year 23-24. Pardon? Well, yes, I think that would be useful from my point of view, I must admit, if there was more that people could do in that respect. But I got to look and see what we got here. There's a lot of material there which you know well about, but if you look at the back pages of page 12 and 13, that was the program that we had, and I think the questions that we're looking to ask really to learn from is basically, where do you think we've done particularly well? Where do you think we haven't done particularly well is perhaps more important. Any particular areas that you should think should be looking at. Obviously, we will come on to the work programme, which we put together as myself, but we don't do that in isolation. We obviously talk to the department as well in terms of what it is. Obviously, when there's a nice sit down, we look at what we've looked at before, whether we need to keep on following up, etc. And that's how we put the programme together. So in many ways, I'd like to talk of two things together in that respect, both items on the agenda in terms of next year's work programme as well. Just to ask you really, have you got any comments? Have you got anything you want to say? What do you think we do particularly well? What do you think we could do better? So this is your opportunity, and Liz will take it all down and listen very carefully and then tell me what I got to do afterwards. So the floor is now yours. Mike?
Yeah, thanks, Paxton. Rather than commenting on, the sort of the pros and cons, I think there's one area that we must continue to keep an eye on, and hope that we can build it into the work programme for next year, and that is mental health. I think everybody's recognising the impact of the ongoing impact of COVID, and it would be great to see us continuing to have a focus on that.
I think we've already put in something in terms of CAMS anyway. We
Exactly what I was going to say, Mike, because the referral system for CAMS is such a long, drawn-out process that these children are very difficult to alter their behaviour and that.
Pardon? We took it. Oh, sorry. I've just been informed that my memory is slipping and we've actually taken it out of the system, but we can always put it back in because Mary comes along and talks about that following the work that she did on scrutiny, because basically she's been reasonably satisfied up to this stage, and because there were a number of things that we thought we needed to look at, we actually took it out of the programme this year.
Well, I recently have had information that it's taken 2 years for children to be from referral to get assessed. So that is, something that I think that we should really revisit.
If that's a general opinion, then certainly we will look at that again.
I would like to.
Okay, we'll look at that again and see where we
Chair.
Pardon?
Yes,
And you as well, Yvonne?
yes,
You're
because
saying the same thing. Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
I find that the people I deal with,
Pardon?
the families I deal with, some are waiting over 2 years for a referral. I wouldn't say the system is any better than when we had the
Okay.
last look at it.
Pardon? Okay, we in that case we certainly need to have a look at it and see what they say again, because the reason, as I say, we decided that perhaps there was no need to put it in this year but bring it back in next year is because of the comments that we had at the last meeting when Councillor Mary Jones was here. She seemed reasonably satisfied. Sandra?
Could we also link a little bit further than just CAMS into, when I say adult mental health, because the day they're 18, they're still part of the child and family and so on, but actually they bounce into adult and they go back on another 2-year waiting list at that point. So some children are actually waiting 4 years. I think it'd be relevant to see the continuum.
The transition from
Yeah.
child and family services to adult social services is always an interface which seems to be difficult.
Yeah.
Not quite sure why that should be, because they know exactly when the age is going to change, and I sort of thought they could have prepared for it, but that's something that we've discussed over a number of times over many years. But it's a fair point to make, I think, and perhaps you might want to pick that up, Sue, as well, in terms of adult social services.
Chair, can I say here as well,
Yvonne?
what Joy was just saying about the interface. Part of the problem is that although they're 18, they're still seen as children because they've got poor mental health. But neither side then takes responsibility for them. It's not that they're bounced into the adult, it's that they're left in no man's land.
Left in limbo land, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
And perhaps that's something that we need to look at and see how we can sort that out soon.
Yeah.
And can I just, oh no, it's okay, I won't ask that.
Come back in minutes. Liz?
Ask away.
I was just going to say that we have actually got implementation of the regional partnership board's mental health strategy come into the adult services panel? Because I know adult mental health was raised at the adult services panel. I'm just wondering whether maybe we can do some sort of joint item there might be better this year rather than two separate ones. I don't know what everyone's view is on that.
That seems logical,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Yeah,
Now we do that as a joint meeting.
Yes, I'd be happy with that.
yeah.
We do it under your committee then, because we're full up and you've got plenty. It's already on your agenda. So
Yeah.
that's fine.
Right,
That's it.
right.
But sorry, just to clarify, Paxton, is that meaning that we would take into account children and adults, children, family and adults into that one?
In that sense, I think we
area?
can, and we would certainly look at
okay.
the transition particularly as well. I think, Mike,
Yeah.
in that sense,
Okay,
there's no
and the other
reason
thing-
we shouldn't do that.
The other thing I'd like to have included in that as well is link with education schools. You know, if the section could be included on that as well.
Would with us, or would you like it to look separately by that performance panel?
Well, as long as the adult group were happy to have that included as well, it might add to the length of it. But it's just really thinking in terms of you know, the total service provision and support for children and families with mental health challenges.
It's
I did ask that in the education scrutiny and was told it would be better placed in child and families. But I think it does involve education as well.
I'm beginning.
You know,
to
there's a
think
huge.
whether perhaps we should have one meeting which has the three sets of scrutiny panels together.
Yeah,
If that can be arranged, does that make sense,
yeah, it does.
Sandra?
To play devil's advocate on that one, the wider you put this, I think in terms of scrutiny, we're not going to be homing in, and we may end up being victims of a very broad cross section, but with no real outcomes because it's too wide.
Would the discussion enable us to narrow that down?
I don't know. I just, if we've got child and family, adult, education, we've all got a vested interest in our particular bit. Are we actually going to narrow into a focus that will provide an outcome for people to actually work with?
Let's have a little think about that, and we can talk to your colleagues as well and see how we can, if we can sort that out and come back to you for a proposal. There's no absolute rush to sort that out. When's your meeting on? Pardon?
9th of July.
No. When is it on your plan for your agenda?
Oh, right. I haven't got it.
No.
No.
Okay.
Be devil's advocate as well. Health have got some responsibility with it because the schools are asking the doctors to do referrals. The referrals are pushed back to the schools. The doctors don't want to know. So it's more than maybe the three, you know, child, adult, education. Health have got some input into it. Sorry.
I think we're almost heading now for a totally separate meeting, and whether it's practical or not is another matter, and it's something we can certainly look at, whether it is practical and whether we could put it together.
You could also add in corporate parenting as well, just to add to it.
Okay. Well, you know, it is a matter of identifying where we think there are the potential problems, what you're doing about it, how you're going to overcome them. Now, if health is one of those bodies that we need there,
Health are actually attending because they are the lead for the adult mental health part. So they are attending that meeting for that, yeah.
So, Wendy?
I think Sandra's right. I think the more people you're going to get, the further away the situation is going to get. Do you know what I mean? You're going to have all these, who is going to say, well, we'll do that, or you're not. I don't think it's going to get it. It's going to get worse with so many things.
So
and I know things.
What you're saying, we get unmanageable, is it?
I think so. If you're going to have all these everybody's going to be I know they're all going to be saying they're going to say, but are they going to do it? Probably not.
We're always moving to a one-day conference here, to be honest.
Well, that's actually,
I
I think that's a
Yeah.
good idea
Pardon?
to have like a conference with all.
Some of us
Yeah.
attended the One Resident
Yeah.
conference a couple of weeks ago, and actually that was quite interesting, where we had almost different stalls, and social services were there, and police were there, and a number of others. And maybe that's the sort of thing. I know it's a huge thing, it's way away from the scrutiny here, but maybe that's where what we're talking about belongs, but it's not scrutiny.
We had a very powerful investigation. Those of you might remember being in the roles, I think Paxton, you were as well, where we held it out at St Helens, and we had officers and councillors together, and the focus of it was to put the youngster or the person, the family, at the centre, and just to ask them what their experiences were of the services that they'd received. And we had health and all the different council services involved at that point. You know, that was a very powerful experience, and I think led to some changes as a result of the input that was there. I'm trying desperately to think of the name of the approach, but it escapes me for the minute.
It's not coming to mind with me, I got to say, Mike, I must admit, but I'm sure Liz will do a research and find out about it and find out what that was, won't you? And it's easy, just hand over the officers and say to us, please. But certainly, I think it's an interesting thing. It's something we can think about and see how we can pull it together. See if there's a mechanism where we think we can do that. Pardon?
We are losing youngsters in the system somehow.
Pardon?
I wonder whether we just look at the child and family services part with the transition as the CAMS item, and then keep it up. I'm just wondering if we might be better off just keeping the separate CAMS item, but also looking at transition for this panel, and leave the adult mental health one implementation for the adult services panel, because that is a separate strategy that we've got, and outside scrutiny maybe somebody can look at.
I think the real concern we have is that transition period as well, wasn't it? Okay, leave up with us and we'll have a little think about it. Get our heads together, see when it's see how we can come back with proposals. How's that? Okay. Anything else as far as the work programme is concerned? We are short of work. We've obviously got a few items at the end there, in fact, which we could always build in if necessary. I don't think we're normally short of work to do. I'm not sure what the time is now. 5 o'clock. Only been going an hour today in the last quarter. So the meeting itself was effectively 3/4, so it wasn't a particularly long meeting as such. Pardon? So perhaps there is maybe room to fit some things in. We'll have a look at that very closely, I think. Anything else? In that case, I'll say then I'll talk with Liz and Sue, and we'll have a little think about it and see, put our heads together and see what we can come up with. Okay, good. In that case, if there's nothing else, I'll say thank you very much.
Thank you.
What is that? Sorry, Mike? Oh, okay. Okay, Mike, thanks.